ショックよね。自分の恋人がショッカーだったなんて。
We already did that joke last week. Continuing right from where we left off last week, Yukarisu revealed her secret identity to Yuriko, which had her surprised that a member of Shocker was at her school, meanwhile that one kid was surprised by two other things. So, fun fact about Shocker, the female troopers were the first, at least humanoid villains to appear in the franchise. They were the ones who caught Takeshi Hongo to force him to undergo the surgery that would turn him into the first Kamen Rider. The fact that they were all very curvy ladies in leotards and fish stockings were very much by design, though not just for the cheesecake. Supposedly, Shotaro Ishinomori wrote them to represent the ladies of the rising corporations of the late 60s to early 70s when Kamen Rider came out, who lured in a bunch of average schmoes to work for them, not realizing that they were going to work in sweatshops. So yeah, Ishinomori wrote Shocker to represent both the Yahtzees and shady corpos.
Same difference.
He was basically telling them when they get older to be wary of the pretty ladies baiting them in. Or in more layman's terms, don't be a simp. The man was friends with Stan Lee. He was pretty based. Point is that Yukarisu's design is very much in keeping with Ishinomori's original vision for the series, albeit with a little extra on top. In any case, the kid was found out, and she almost immediately wanted to kill him off, but was stopped by Yuriko and her vicious roundhouse.
Keep the change. Roadhouse.
Yukarisu did have the advantage in pure power, and could have won had it not been for the fact that Yuriko was more skilled in both judo and pro wrestling. Yeah, I really like this exchange, as it highlighted how a normal human can be a superhuman as long as they don't try to overpower them, and instead do clever stuff like use their momentum against them. Not everything should just be purely based on power levels. Plus again, I am a bit of a casual fan of wrestling. I would say better than the AEW's women division, but really every division is better than them. With that, she called in Tojima to help her carry Yukarisu back to Mitsuba so that they could explain the situation involving his girlfriend. As a result of this revelation, he ended up explaining more about his backstory as it involved a tragic turn that would understandably leave him and his brother at odds with Shocker more directly. And again, I just love this routine of Tojima being totes into it and Yuriko just hoping they could keep it short. Anyway, he flashed back when the brothers had gone to see their grandparents in the countryside. However, things quickly went sideways when a couple of home invaders busted in, with one guy, I think purposely meant to look like an evil gaijin complete with a Route 66 shirt. Of course, he revealed himself to be a Shocker Trooper when Mitsuba's brother, Ichio, hit him with Kamen Rider V3's Hanten kick. So yeah, he turned out to be slightly less evil than an American, but still he did harm the poor brothers. That said, he also did show a bit of a sympathetic side when the plus-size woman wasn't a kaijin, but rather his human girlfriend, which yeah, we don't judge around these parts. Besides, he was genuinely trying to protect her, as not only was he wanted by the cops, but also Shocker, as they had branded him as a traitor for abandoning his duties, like not killing off a human that he had revealed his identity to. This would become a little more important later, but first they had to deal with an ogre.
Tadaima.
Oh crap, it's the Omega Karen herself, Kuja. Game over, man, game over! Seriously, I get a kick out of it whenever this veteran VA plays a jacked up and or old lady. Because when she's not playing a washed up villain, you know some asses are gonna be kicked. Still, the Shocker Trooper tried to fight back. Yeah, I think we all know where this is going. They're going to try to subvert our expectations that the Shocker Trooper is going to somehow take down Granny Kujira, when really they're just going to find out that she totally beat their asses and... I'll shut up now. I mean, to be fair, Granny probably did still beat the trooper's ass, but then this kaijin swooped in. Specifically, he turned out to be a representation of the second kaijin that the OG riders fought, the Batman, The first one that we've actually already seen a representation of in this show was the Man Spider, and yeah, can you tell Ishinomori was a fan of Western comics? And I guess it would only be appropriate that Stanley would later take it back for one of his own shows. But yeah, this rightfully left the brothers traumatized, as the even more dickish Bruce Wayne didn't even bother to finish them off. And as it just so happened, Ichio had arrived as Mitsuba likely called him in after the first real Shocker attack. This led to the most important exchange between a bunch of Kamen Rider nerds. If you dare say Omagio or Zane, then shut up, that's just cheating. But yeah, on top of looking the most like a Kamen Rider in civilian form, Ichio had what I would consider an actual Kamen Rider VA. And no, I'm not talking about the fact that Keiichi Suzumura has ADR'd riders for the crossover movies when their original actors weren't around. I'm more referring to a character that only he could ever voice. Yeah, if you couldn't tell by the belt, I am a bit of a fan of Denno and Ryutaro's. And yes, he counts as a rider, as even if you want to say the actual rider was Ryotaro when he possessed him, Ryu has also henshined on his own in one of the movies, so he totally counts. However, Ichio here was clearly a V3 stan, who really tried to argue that he was the strongest, which, no disrespect, as I'm also a V3 fan, and while he was literally made to be stronger than the original two, he's far from the strongest, even amongst the Showa riders, as that would actually be Black RX, because Bio Rider's abilities are just way too OP. God, I'm a nerd. Regardless, the two men wanted to have their own little nerdy spat. Yuriko also tried to get involved, but was quickly rejected, as this was a one-on-one. Thus, she just changed back in front of three men, one of whom was a little hornier than the others. Oof, Maya is going to be pissed off later. Jokes and nerdiness aside, Tojima and Ichio had probably the best fight of the series so far, as it was just a plain old slobber knocker, with both men fairly accurately replicating the fighting styles of their respective Oshi between V3's flashy acrobatics and Ichigo's grounded martial arts. It was really well done, but unfortunately was cut kind of short when Yukariso woke up and Ichio wasn't surprised by her giant tits. Or maybe it was and was trying to cop a feel. Either way, Mitsuba protected his girlfriend and declared that he loved her even if she was a member of Shocker. This led to a really damn cute moment between the couple, which made what happened next all the more tragic. Because as the Bonnie and Clyde couple foreshadowed, Shocker didn't accept any defectors, especially in regards to their cardinal rule of killing anyone who learned about them. Thus, the episode ended with her calling in a bunch of her guys to deal with the four wannabe superheroes. This was a really effective introduction for Yukarisu and Ichio. While both have technically previously appeared in the show, this episode really let us actually learn about and sympathize with them. Which is pretty amazing when you consider these characters are on opposite ends of the conflict. While it's easy to write off the show as just a bunch of nerds play-acting their favorite superheroes, which it technically is, it has become an interesting deconstruction of the original heroes and villains of the Kamen Rider franchise. While originally it was a fairly straightforward good versus evil plot with some subtle commentary of the time period of when it came out, this show gives a lot more depth to Shocker. Sure, it's still unquestionably an evil organization, especially their Kaijin, who are literal killing machines, but the troopers have always been people too. Thus, of course, some of them would fall in love and maybe even want to settle down, and yet like a mafia, they can never leave the family unless it's in a body bag. This episode highlighted both sides of this conflict, with the Shimamuras being a victim of the Batman, while Yukarisu was a trooper who right now probably wishes she wasn't in Shocker. And yet, as was cleverly paralleled with the home invading trooper, things just couldn't work out so easily. It's a really compelling conflict, especially with Mitsuba caught in the middle of all of it, with Ichio rightfully wanting to dispose of her, and yet the couple do genuinely love each other. It makes this overall a really great progression of the show's plot, with us really getting to know about these two and how much fighting Shocker means to them. If the home invaders were Bonnie and Clyde, then these two are Romeo and Juliet, and in both cases, things didn't exactly work out well for those couples. Thanks for watching what's gonna be one of our last videos before I go on a little vacation. Yeah, tomorrow I'm taking another trip to Japan to see the sights and maybe watch a couple of seasonal appropriate movies. We'll try to pump out something for Idle Creek here, might do a short or something. Until then though, fair for now my friends, and Was the lion guy a member of Shocker?